Welcome, investors. U.S. economic data this week shows resilient strength in the U.S. economy. Are we all set for that soft landing we've heard so much about? We're going to discuss. And as tax season approaches, what is the real benefit to contributing to a retirement plan? We're going to show you an example with deferred compounding interest, because it's not always about how much you make on your money that counts, but how much you keep. If you find value from this video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to our channels. And let's get into it. I'm Jake Ackerman, your investment advisor representative. All right, so U.S. economic data. Let's take a quick look. I got a Market Watch here article, and in your middle column here, you have your medium forecast, and on the left, you have your actual. So let's go through some data here. So U.S. retail sales expectations, 0.4%. We have 0.6. Excellent. Next, initial jobless claim, expectations 208 and 187 coming in below expectations, showing strength. Or is it really? Jobless claim falls under 200,000, the lowest level in 6 months, but it's not as good as it looks. Plunging unemployment filings in New York exaggerate decline. So the initial jobless, I pointed out two data points. Retail sales, that's consumer spending at your malls, your shopping centers. And then your initial jobless claim is people filing for unemployment this week. They're filing for unemployment benefits. So, it came in below expectations, that initial jobless claim, but there's a really skewed figure because people are going back to school. You have holiday hiring. And a lot of this data that took place, that exaggerated the data, took place in New York. So it's just not really the case in there. So let's go flip to the retail sales. And we've been on this case of the declining consumer strength. And, we just didn't see it in December. But that's just not really true either. The consumer spending, they've ingrained these habits since the coronavirus stimulus. People had a lot of money, they're spending. We have habits that are ingrained in us right now. And tons of people, to make this holiday spending, had to put money on credit cards. I was looking at some of the numbers. It's 90+% use credit cards, or you use buy now, pay later, which the payment's gonna come due here in March. You gotta pay that thing off. That's why it's buy now, pay later. Here's another statistic that took place before the holiday season, showing us the strength. So check out this article by CNBC. 62% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck as holiday spending, credit card debt rises. And this article was from December 19th. So that took place before the actual holiday spending, which people spent a lot of money. They've racked up a ton of debt. So we really need to watch over these next couple months. If it is going to take place, if this economic slowdown is really going to start to manifest, we're going to start to see the real signs. January, February, and March, this first quarter of this year. Look for really March data as the buy now, pay here later takes place. The student credit or the student loan repayments are starting to rack up lots of delinquencies, car note delinquencies, credit card delinquencies. A lot of delinquencies are starting to add up. Look for more ramifications from those delinquencies that start to spread the web. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. I'm leaning towards the present or the former, that it does happen, but we're going to start to see it in the data. But we have to look under the hood at the data. We have to really get into it because we have an election this year. You better expect the economists, the analysts are not going to announce that we're in a recession, we're in an economic slowdown, unless it is so present and so visual, we're just not going to get it. They're not going to affect the outcomes of the election. That's just kind of the internal code as much as they can. So look for them government to spend to keep GDP up. Look for spending everywhere that they possibly can to keep the numbers up. And look for to try to kick this economic recession or economic slowdown down the road. All right, now let's shift gears. As tax season approaches, I have tons of clients and prospective clients, friends, associates talk about, hey, I'm going to make this retirement plan contribution. But what is the real benefit? I can't touch this money till I'm 59 and a half. But people don't realize it's, as I stated at the beginning of this video, it's not always about how much you make in your money that counts, but how much you keep. How much you keep in your pockets. You're paying 40% in taxes. That's 40% of your income gone to income taxes. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid's different kind of tax. I mean, that benefits you potentially in the future if Social Security is still around then, or some type of Social Security, and maybe it's moved down instead of in your early 60s you can take it, maybe you can't take it to your 70s. We've seen that in some European countries. When you put money into a 401k, you don't just have to invest in your mutual funds. You can be strategic about it. You can roll it over into a self-directed IRA, another IRA, invest in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, which you're probably currently investing in right now with your 401k, more likely just mutual funds. You can make it self-directed, and you can buy physical gold, physical silver. You can buy real estate investments with your 401k. There's a lot more strategic things you can do than just leaving your money in your mutual funds at your employer. But each 401k plan is different at each employer, so you need to understand the terms of your agreement to find out what options that you have. It's your job to educate yourself so you can find out what investments that you can make with that 401k, what you can and can't do. So I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to need this calculator to be able to give you the figures on it. So as I stated, she makes $120,000. That puts her in the 24% tax bracket. She's filing single. And for this example, so it's nice and easy, visual, I'm going to make this a flat tax numbers, because in the US we have a progressive tax. The first 10% you pay $9,000 in taxes, 9,000 some change. The next 2%, which puts you at the 12% tax bracket, another amount of dollars. And all of this is very searchable. You can just search tax brackets 2024. It's going to give you the progressive numbers. So you can go use the dollars that you're making and figure out, all right, what taxes am I going to pay? You can also go and look at what the standard deduction is, whether you're filing single or filing married jointly. All that number is very accessible, very easy, and you can do the calculations yourself. But I'm going to show you an example and how to make those calculations so you can know the real benefit of doing this, because a lot of people don't know. So back to the example, $120,000 at 24% gives you a $28,800 in taxes owed. Again, flat tax, no deductions. $28,800 that I owe in taxes. For 2023, this, my friend, physician's assistant, is under the age of 50, so she can contribute $23,000 as an employee deferral for tax year 2024. What does that do? $120,000 minus her 401k employee contribution. Now her income goes, on paper, from $120,000 down to $97,000. So the original tax, $28,800. Now what happened? She went from the 24% tax bracket at $120,000 down to the 22% at $97,000 in income. Now what is her tax bill? $21,340. How much did she save? She saved $7,460 by making that 401k contribution. So let me show you what that looks like over time. All right, so I got this compound interest calculator here up in front of you. We're going to take a look at some real world numbers here. But before we do, S&P 500 annual return is around 10.26% from 1957 to 2023. That's the average return year over year, even with recessions, good times. Initial investment, $7,460, that tax savings. Length of time, we'll just add 20 years. Interest rate, let's make it a flat 10, and let's calculate. By deferring those taxes in 20 years, that $7,460 is now worth $50,187.15. 20 years, that $7,000 is now worth over $50,000. That is the power of deferring your taxes, letting your savings grow tax deferred and compound. Now, you're going to have to pay the tax on it later, but there's a lot of strategies, a lot of strategic moves that you can make to not pay a large tax burden. And it's your patriotic duty, and that's why the IRS gives us the tax code. That's why the Congress made the tax code, for you to interpret it, for you to follow the IRS rules and regulations, but also do things the right way, do things that you can save and defer, because when you're educated and you're saving money, you're making investments into the society, you're investing into publicly traded companies, you're investing into real estate, you're investing into precious metals that benefit your local economy and therefore benefit the entire U.S. economy as a whole. Eventually you'll pay taxes, but you created all kinds of wealth in the meantime. Stay educated, stay on top of this. Next week we have more inflation numbers. Let's see what December looks like. But again, I think more January numbers are probably going to be more important. February, March, each subsequent month as we get closer to this election, feel the more impacts from the interest rate hikes in 2022. Let's see if we start to see things weaken and soften. I think we will, but we'll keep you updated. And if things change, we'll keep an open mind. Expertise you deserve, experience you can count on.